Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the very first episode of my new weekly Q&A series. Every week my plan is to answer at least 10 questions submitted by you guys. In order to submit a question, you just need to leave a comment on this video or over on my Patreon page. And then every week I'm going to choose at least 5 from YouTube and at least 5 from Patreon, and I will answer the most interesting ones. But if there are lots of great questions, I will probably mix it up and answer a few more here and there. Also, my plan is to do this every single Sunday, but there are going to be occasions where I'm at like a convention, like Dragon Con is coming up on Labor Day, or I might be on vacation or something. So if that happens, the following week I will just do an extra long video and I'll do 20 questions instead of just 10. This week, to kick things off, I went ahead and I took questions from the people that signed up as patrons already, and I need to say a huge thank you to every single one of them already, because we have blown past my first goal, which was $100, so now I'm going to be doing a monthly giveaway on Patreon, and we're already halfway to my second goal of $500, and that's just insane. So thank you to everyone that has already signed up to be a patron. And I need to give a special thank you to John Sanders, who donated $100 a month. That's crazy. You're a legend, man. So thank you so much for that. All right, now that everyone knows how this Q&A series is going to work, let's dive into questions. Starting with John Sanders, he asks, which technology do you think is stronger in battle, Star Wars universe or Star Trek? That's a good question, and unfortunately I'm not super equipped to answer it because I don't know nearly as much about Star Trek as I do about Star Wars. I did watch it with my dad growing up, mostly The Next Generation, and I saw most of those era movies like First Contact and Generations, Insurrection, Nemesis, but I just don't know nearly as much about the lore. But based on like the newer, like the J.J. Abrams movies, I would have to go with Star Wars by far. I don't think anything I've seen in Star Trek, it doesn't have the power to destroy a planet, but they literally destroy the planet Vulcan, don't they? So, I guess they're on some levels kind of matched, but I'm still going to give the edge to Star Wars. Just seeing those, I have seen Star Trek Space Battles, and they look a lot more slowly paced than they do in Star Wars, so I think the Star Destroyers and the Death Star and ships like that probably outclass the, was it the Federation fleet? I don't even know what they're called in Star Trek. I should look into that more, but yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Star Wars. The Techno asks, what's your favorite, Clone Wars or Rebels? I've covered this before on live streams, but since this is a new series, I'll go ahead and answer it again. I actually prefer Rebels. Don't get me wrong, I love Clone Wars, but I prefer the way Rebels is just a linear story and kind of mixes it up every episode. The Clone Wars, like, they had arcs, and some arcs would be incredible, but some were just so-so, and it's like, if you got to a so-so arc, you had to sit through it for 4 episodes instead of just 1. Rebels, it's like some episodes are so-so, but it's just 1 episode, so you just move on the next week. That said, some of the Clone Wars arcs, I think, have hit me harder emotionally than Rebels has. Specifically, the Mandalorian stuff with Darth Maul and Savage Opress when they take over Death Watch and take over Mandalore, and then Sidious comes and kills Savage. Pretty much anything with Savage I thought was awesome. That I think is at least my high point of the series, and I don't think Rebels has hit that same level of high note for me, at least. But overall, all the way through, I have been enjoying Rebels more consistently than the Clone Wars. Aaron Cooper asked, do you think Grand Admiral Thrawn Story will go roughly the same as it does in Legends media, or do you think they'll mix it up and give us something new? I actually did a video on this last week on Monday, but the basics of it, my thoughts are that we're going to see Thrawn as a character be very similar. He's going to have the same philosophies. He's going to have the same traits. He'll be very good at outsmarting the heroes, and he's going to be a brilliant tactical mind. But I don't think the story is going to go beat for beat like it did in the Thrawn trilogy. I also don't think that his new backstory is going to go beat for beat the way it did in like Outbound Flight. But I wouldn't be surprised if like major beats of his story were very similar. Like, I kind of feel like if he's going to die, it'll happen in a similar way that it did in the Thrawn trilogy. I think he's going to be betrayed and assassinated, stabbed in the, well, he was stabbed in the front, but metaphorically stabbed in the back, rather than beaten by the rebels. I think that is a better way to honor his character than to have our main cast of heroes outsmart him all of a sudden. I would much rather see him beat them time after time after time and then be taken out of the story by something he couldn't foresee. So I think the character is going to be very faithful. It'll be a faithful representation, but I don't think we're going to get the exact same story from Legends. Daniel asked, do you think we'll get an Obi Wan Star Wars story? If so, what would you like to see in it? It's tough to say. Like, to me, it seems like the obvious choice. If you're going to do these anthology movies, you have Ewan McGregor. He's like the perfect age for it. I don't know why they haven't announced it already. And he seems like totally gung-ho to do it. And then you have the comics that are basically telling the story. We've had 3 Obi-Wan little side stories in the main Star Wars comic, and they've been really good. I don't know why we're seeing them in comic form and not movie form, you know? I really hope that at some point we do get an Obi-Wan story. I think everyone is hoping for that, and I don't know, I just don't get it. But as for what I would like to see in it, I guess I would like to see him travel off planet. Maybe it would be cool to have Darth Maul's story wrap up in an Obi-Wan anthology film. Maybe Maul survives Rebels, and then they can get Ray Park back, and we can have, like, Obi-Wan hears news of Darth Maul in a nearby planet, and so, like, he goes and hunts him down and chases him throughout the galaxy, or vice versa. Maybe Darth Maul hunts Obi-Wan down, but something like that could be really cool. I really want to see Obi-Wan be the one to finally kill Darth Maul. And that might happen in Rebels, it might happen in the comics, but it would be great if we saw it happen in film. But yeah, it's hard to say for sure whether or not we are definitely going to get an Obi-Wan movie. I think that we should, but I can't say, yeah, it's for sure going to happen. Harrison Carter asked, how did you first become a Star Wars fan, and in what order did you watch the films? I think I've told this story on a live stream as well, but again, most people haven't seen those. So I live in Atlanta, and in 1996, the Olympics were here. So the city was building all of the infrastructure to go into the Olympics, and they built this big park, and my parents took me down to the park, and I was 7 or 8 at this time. I hadn't seen Star Wars. I probably knew of it, but just hadn't ever watched it. And there were a bunch of people down there just dressed in costume. Kind of like, I guess, on the Las Vegas Strip, people are just in costume so you can take pictures of them. Since there were so many tourists down there, there were a bunch of people in costume. One of them was Darth Vader, and my little 7-year-old brain kind of latched onto him, and I was just staring at him. And that guy saw me staring at him, so he came over and was acting all intimidating and Darth Vader. He, like, picked me up and gave me a little shake and put me down. And so I was, like, asking my dad, who's this guy? And he's like, that's Darth Vader. And you know how he just picked you up? Well, in the movie he's in, Star Wars, he picks up a guy by the throat with one hand and chokes him to death. And I was like, I'd like to see that, please. So we went home. It's kind of morbid. We went home and immediately watched it. My parents had it taped off of TBS on a VHS on the good old days. So I watched it and fast forwarded through all the commercials, and then I think I watched that tape for the rest, like every day for the rest of that summer. I was instantly hooked and obsessed. So I watched that one probably for months before I ever saw Empire. And then I watched Empire, then I watched Return of the Jedi, then I watched the prequels. So I watched them in order of their original release. Brandon Huelga asks, I hope I said that right, what is one real band or artist that you think Han and Chewie would jam out to the most while flying around in the Falcon? I really like this question, and I might put some more thought into it at a later date and make like an actual playlist. I think that would be fun to think about what Han and Chewie listen to while they're just traveling through hyperspace. But my first thought when I read this question was Freebird or Leonard Skinner in general. I can really see them jamming out to that. Or Chewie would probably take a liking to Wild Thing. My wife, Molly, instantly thought that they would listen to Rush, which I think that's a good choice too. But I might put a little extra thought into that and put together like a Han and Chewie cruising playlist. Joe Costner asks, how does Yoda know about the Rule of Two in The Phantom Menace? That's a great question, and one that doesn't have a very good answer right now. Both in Legends and canon, the Sith Order was wiped out by the Jedi about 1,000 years before The Phantom Menace. So Yoda would not have been born at that point. Darth Bane survived, created the Rule of Two so that the Sith could live on in secret. So if Yoda was born after the Sith were destroyed, why does he know about the Rule of Two if it wasn't created, at least to their knowledge? In Legends, there are a couple of possibilities. There's one where a Jedi fell to the dark side, became a Dark Jedi, learned of the Sith, and then when the Jedi killed him, his dying words were alluding to the Rule of Two. So that could have started rumors. There were also two Sith Lords. Darth the Millennial, he went against the Rule of Two. We don't know exactly what that means, but it could be that he outed himself as a Sith and maybe made some attacks and maybe let some information slip. And there was also Darth Gravid, who actually went back to the light side until he was killed by his apprentice, Darth Geen. So either of those guys may have let something slip, but in the canon, there's nothing like that. We don't have that story. So it really makes no sense why Yoda would sit there and say, always two there are, because as far as we know, the only thing he knows about the Sith is that they used to be like this huge order and then they were wiped out. So yeah, right now, that in the canon at least, that's pretty much completely unanswered. And I'm sorry, but I don't have an answer for you. They need to fill in that gap at some point. Leon Gaspar asked, what character from Legends would you like to see returning in the new canon now that Thrawn is back? I would love to see Captain Pellaeon. I'm kind of setting my sights a little low. I love Pellaeon, but I'm kind of betting that he will be canonized along with Thrawn, because he's such an integral part of the Thrawn trilogy, and he's kind of the common man, I guess, that allows us to see Thrawn in his eyes, and like he's always just blown away with how awesome Thrawn is. So and I think I saw someone on Reddit say it's like having Sherlock Holmes without Watson. That's a very good description, because Timothy Zahn even based them on Holmes and Watson. So I'm kind of hoping that Timothy Zahn, since he was like a consultant for bringing Thrawn back, and that he's writing the Thrawn book, I'm willing to bet that somewhere in there he's going to throw Captain Pellaeon in. So that's my vote. I'm hoping for Captain Pellaeon. Ayan Garg asks, and again, I hope I'm saying that right, do you think Disney purchasing Star Wars is a good thing for fans? Yes, absolutely I do. I mean, we are now getting one new Star Wars movie every year. That alone makes it worth it. And beyond that, we're getting all these new comics, new books. And I mean, that was happening anyway with Legends, but it's really all about the movies. We're getting one a year. And so far, I mean, Force Awakens, in my opinion, was fantastic. It may have been kind of a retread, but I was willing to forgive it because I loved all the new characters, and I can't wait to see them in episode 8. And Rogue One looks fantastic to me, and they're going to explore different genres. The only thing I think was really a bummer about the acquisition by Disney was the loss of the Clone Wars. Um, the wiping away of the old EU, I am like on the fence about whether or not I'm a fan of that or not. Like, for the sake of getting new movies, I'm for it. Am I bummed that some stories that I love, like the X-Wing books, have been wiped off the slate? A little bit, but if they keep doing things like they're doing with Grand Admiral Thrawn, if they're going to take the best parts about the EU, because let's face it, not everything in Legends is as great as you might remember it, like the Emperor being cloned multiple times and coming back again and again. Like, that's gone now, and that's good, but Grand Admiral Thrawn's now back, and like the Eclipse is at least back in name thanks to Aftermath Life Debt, so if they pick and choose the best parts from Legends and keep those, I'm all for it. But yeah, to answer your question, I think that Disney buying Lucasfilm and making new Star Wars movies because of it is a great, great thing. Yannick Groling asks, what series of toys or collectibles do you like the most? You might be able to see on the shelf behind me. Right now, my wife and I are kind of obsessed with Funko Pop. I think we have 50 of them. I'll try to get a shot of just all of them. Like, they don't fit on the shelf up there. They don't fit on my desk. I have a bookcase over there. So yeah, right now it's all about the Funko. When I was a kid, it was all about the action figures. I had like 150 of those, the old Hasbro like Power of the Force action figures. I loved those, and I'll take a picture. I still have them on my shelf too. Actually, funny story about that. When I was in early high school, I had all these action figures, but they were just sitting in a bin in my attic, and my family's a family friend, she had some like 7-year-old kids, and they were starting to get into Star Wars. And I was like, I just have these action figures. They're just sitting here. I was like, do they want these action figures? And of course they did. So they took them. And then years later, I kind of regretted doing that, but like, glad I could make them happy. Well, my parents, around my birthday recently, they went and basically asked for them back because those kids have now grown up and they're not really as into Star Wars. So now their action figures are all just sitting in a bin. So my parents got all of my action figures back for me, and that was the best surprise because that's just something that has always kind of loomed over my head, like as kind of a bummer, a regret that I had. But my parents really pulled through, and it's awesome. But yeah, right now I'm all about the Funko, and I guess books. They're not toys; they don't really count. I don't really collect the Black Series, but I should because I like those action figures. But the Funko are just so like light and easy and fun. They're such a fun thing to collect. So yeah, right now it's Funko. And the last question of the day comes from Adam Holden. He asks, "What's your favorite canon comic book to date?" Off the top of my head, I think I'm gonna have to go with Lando. It was one of the short ones, so it has the benefit of being a really tight, condensed story, but it's also the one that like had the biggest emotional punch. It told Lobot's story, and at the end of it, he basically sacrifices his humanity to save Lando and Chaneth Cha, and that blindsided me. I was not expecting that book to be as good as it was. It was so cool, and I wasn't expecting Lobot's backstory to be so tragic, but that's the one that's impressed me the most. I also have really enjoyed Darth Vader. I think it's a really cool, just different, dark tale set in the Star Wars universe. And then I really like just the normal Star Wars comic. I think that's the one that's doing the most. It's having the most fun. It's asking questions like, hey, how do we get lightsabers in the hands of Han and Leia and Chewie for just a little bit, just to see how it goes. They have just ideas of things that they want to try, and they find cool stories and ways to pull it off. So those three have been really good, but I think Lando is probably my favorite one. And that about does it for the first Q&A video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I want to say thank you again to everyone that already became patrons, and thank you for asking such great questions. I had a lot of fun making this and thinking about the questions that you asked. Remember to participate next week. Just head down to the comments, leave your question there, or follow the link in the description to go to the Patreon page and consider becoming a patron if you haven't already. And if you do, you can ask your question there. The benefit of that being that there are far fewer patrons than there are YouTube commenters, but I'm going to read all the questions on both sites, so don't worry, I don't want to exclude anybody, and I'm going to choose the best, most interesting 5 from each place. Other than that, if you haven't already, just go ahead and hit like, subscribe, share. You can follow me on Instagram at Star Wars Explained. You can follow me on Twitter at Star Wars Explain, and I'm also on Facebook. I think that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.